Gonna make Allison, oh, sorry. I muted Allison instead of making her a host by mistake. Click too fast. There we go. And Allison is a host, so she can now share her presentation.
Okay. And again, please feel free to ask questions or interrupt or whatever you want to do so we can have a conversation about this. So today we're going to talk about mindfulness. And we're doing this through Sportable, the little organization that I created is Healing into Possibility. That's what that's for. And then we have this resource in Richmond called the Inner Work Center, where I am a mindfulness teacher, and they have lots of programs. So it's something that if you want additional information about things, you can check into. So we're going to talk about the gift of mindfulness. And as John said, we're living in the moment. This is a quote from a very well-known teacher named John Kabat-Zinn. And he says, there really aren't any little things. Our life is comprised of these moments one at a time. And if we think of them as little, then we don't really fully live. So every moment is an opportunity to live our lives. We're not living in the future or in the past. We're living right here. So what is mindfulness? As you know, it's a practice. We're training our attention. We're learning how to pay deep, relaxed, compassionate, non-judgmental attention. We're not trying to criticize ourselves or judge ourselves. We're bringing our attention right to this moment without judging and living what's here. So we're paying attention to what's happening right here, right now. What do you notice? Do you feel your presence in the room you're sitting in? Do you notice my voice? These things are happening right now. What do you notice? That's where our lives are. And we practice learning how to keep our attention here. Eleanor was talking about how the mind keeps going in different directions. So we're practicing keeping it here. One of the ways I think about mindfulness is it's actually a science of self-management. It's the best self-management tool I've ever seen. We learn to observe ourselves and become aware of what's going on in the moment, including what's going on in ourselves. Not abstractly, not learning arithmetic. What does it feel like? Where am I right now? As we do that, we discover all kinds of possibilities that we didn't see before. So as we learn to better self-manage, we create more happiness, we create more ease, and we discover possibilities. It's a great tool. So why bother to learn it? All these things happen. We have increased self-awareness. It helps if we're doing a sport. Sportable is about a lot of sports performance. Being mindful when you're doing a sport improves performance, and it decreases your likelihood of being hurt. Mindfulness can improve the quality of our lives, and we become less stressed. It actually affects fatigue. We become less anxious. As we were talking about, when we spend time ruminating on the past or worrying about the future, what we build is anxiety. And learning not to do that helps to relieve anxiety. And then it improves our resilience. And for me, it's such a good adaptation tool. If I'm going to get up and walk across the room with the various challenges I have that increase as I get older, if I'm not paying attention to how I'm walking and how I'm adapting what's going on for me with what I need to do, I'm much less efficient. It's much harder to manage my life. Excuse me. So it sounds easy, but it really isn't, right, Eleanor?
Oh my gosh, it's perhaps the hardest thing I've ever tried to adopt.
Right. It's not easy to pay attention. Most,
Especially after a right brain stroke.
especially after a right brain stroke. Most of the time, we're actually caught in that cloud. We're somewhere else. We're not here. We're in last week, or we're in a sad memory we had when we were 5 years old. I'm 75 now. 70 years ago, what happened to me is not particularly pertinent to what my life is right now, but I can get caught in those old memories. And we discover when we notice that most of the time we're just going around in circles. It's the same story over and over and over and over again. Stories that go on for 70 years. So those stories are repetitive and they generally produce stress. So what we're trying to do as we're practicing mindfulness is to let go of some of that and be more present, as John says.
And to break the pattern of that 70-year-old cycle of a story.
Exactly. We're breaking the pattern. We're rewiring our brains. This is good basic neuroplasticity. When we keep running that story, we're digging a deeper trench in our brain because we keep practicing that story. And when we learn to practice something else, we start to rewire it. So lots of research on mindfulness. I've seen it improve movement. I've seen it change what happens when people are thinking. We know it improves fatigue. We know it changes the brain. They've done lots of research on this. There's actual physical changes in the brain when you practice mindfulness. Intention and attention improve, thinking improves. And one of the things we see a lot is that people become more flexible emotionally. This is a really useful thing. We see that when caregivers learn it, their stress can decrease and it can have a positive effect on us as well. And generally we see that people are happier, have a greater sense of well-being and empathy when they do this. So I think about it as a set of skills and tools. It's not esoteric, it's not out there, it's not woo-woo, it's not some strange thing. It's this basic set of physical, emotional, psychological, and mental tools. And when we practice mindfulness, we learn these tools and then we can use them for ourselves. And we're born with the capacity to do this. We've always known how to do this. Wow. Think about the little children that you've seen when they're small and they're not caught up in these stories, how rapt their attention is, how fully alive they are. We're born knowing how to do this. It's not something new. We're reclaiming a skill that we've always had. So you can feel into it and trust that you know how to do this. But we have to practice. You don't learn to shoot baskets by reading about basketball. You don't learn to be mindful by reading lots of books about mindfulness. It's a practice. As we said, we're changing the brain structures. We all know this is a long, slow process. If anybody knows that, we do, right? From the whole recovery pattern that we've been involved in, one little tiny step at a time. And that's the same for anything you learn, including mindfulness. It's one little step at a time. When we understand that, we can be a little more patient, a little kinder to ourselves, and not set up these big expectations. We practice. Sometimes we're good at it. Sometimes we're not so good at it. We keep practicing. So where do we start? We rest the attention in sensation, some physical sensation. It's a place that's like an anchor. We keep coming back to it when the mind wanders off. Always non-critically, gently, kindly. For many people, the focus of attention is on the breath because it's always there and it's always changing. So we focus on the breath. It doesn't work for everybody. We'll try focusing on the breath today, but if that doesn't work for you, you can focus your attention someplace else. Maybe the sensations in your face. Maybe the sensations in a hand, particularly if you're holding something. You can feel that holding. Maybe the sensations in another part of your body. Maybe you focus on a candle that's burning. There are many different ways we can focus the attention. You choose one, you experiment. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, you choose another one. But today we'll start with breathing because everybody breathes and we're all doing it all the time. So the invitation is, where do you feel yourself breathe? Do you feel your belly move? Do you feel your chest expand and contract? Do you feel the sensation of air going in your nose or in your mouth or out of your nose or your mouth? Where do you feel yourself breathe the most strongly?
Chest.
The chest. Okay, so Eleanor feels it in the chest.
And in the constriction of my throat.
In your throat. So there are sensations. Anybody else? Where do you feel yourself breathe?
I feel it more in my belly.
Or
As
in your
it-
belly?
Mhm.
I think my chest and my nose.
Your chest and your nose. There's no special answer to this. Wherever you feel it is where you feel it. That's all that matters. So rest your attention there for a minute. We're going to do a little practice. So you can close your eyes or you can keep them open. But if you keep them open, very soft gaze, not really looking at anything too much, eyes down, or you can close them. Whatever works for you. And bring your attention to where you feel yourself breathe, wherever it is. Just notice what it feels like to breathe. And rest your attention there gently, resting in sensation, feeling into breathing. And just try resting your attention there for a few moments. If your mind wanders, you notice the wandering, and you very gently bring it back to the place you have chosen. Just noticing and relaxing. No stress, no special way to do this. Notice and invite yourself to relax.
I don't have to do it perfectly, right? There's no perfect
There is
in mindfulness.
no perfect in mindfulness. And actually the biggest part of the practice, Eleanor, is noticing when your mind wanders and bringing it back.
Thank you.
That's the most important thing. You just notice the wandering and you bring it back. After more than 35 years of practicing, do you think my attention always stays on my breath? Not on your life. Some days I'm more wound up than others, and my mind is all over the place. Sometimes I'm more settled, and it's a little more focused. But you just keep practicing. You could spend your whole life doing this, and it would never be perfect. And that's perfect. It's exactly how it should be. So when we begin to practice, what we notice is our minds are always running all over the place.
Monkey brain.
Monkey brain. One of the ways I like to think about it is the way one of the teachers talks about it is like training a puppy. The mind goes off, chases the squirrel. You say, oh, come back. The mind comes back. It sits for a moment. It chases another squirrel. You bring it back. This is how you train a puppy. You don't yell at it. You don't beat it. You don't try to make it perfect. You're just gently training it to stay put. There's always going to be a squirrel. You just keep training the puppy.
What a great analogy. There will always be another squirrel.
There always will. And it'll always race off after something. And you just practice bringing it back. And as you do it over the years, the body quiets and the mind quiets, and you become more peaceful. You're making a pause. No pun intended that time.
Copy.
So as I said, mindfulness is a big tool in recovery and adaptation. When I go into the rehab center, I teach people to pay attention because with self-directed neuroplasticity, we wire in our heads what we pay attention to. That's what happens. So if we're regaining function and we're trying to move a leg or an arm or whatever it is we're trying to do, regain speech, the more we bring our attention to the sensations of doing that, the more we're supporting our brains. I have trouble reaching. I have problems with my shoulders. If I'm not aware of what this arm is doing, I will hurt myself. But if I can bring mindfulness into that process, then my reach extends. I'm able to do more because I am paying attention to the way I move. So I'm both working on my brain and I'm being respectful of what I can do so that I can do more. I'm more aware of the situation I'm in so I can do more. And mindfulness is for all of this. We know that we just can't lie down and make this all go away. Wouldn't it be nice? Drink lots of orange juice, 2 weeks, we're all done. It's not like that. We're living with this always. We always have this. And so learning how to be with it more effectively, mentally, emotionally, and physically is just useful. We don't take things for granted anymore. We have to be very intentional about what we do, right?
Yes.
Exactly. So the more we're able to train our intention and our attention, the better off we are. Because we don't run on automatic anymore. Part of the practice, as John articulated, that's absolutely essential is kindness. We have to turn towards ourselves just as we are. We're not different. We're not somebody else. We're just as we are. And if we don't turn towards ourselves with kindness, we create another kind of injury. We know that critical voice in our head is interpreted as an injury by our brains. So when we practice kindness, not only to the world around us, but towards ourselves, we help ourselves be more mindful. And there's a very simple thing you can do. There are many things you can do to practice kindness, and there are many practices in mindfulness for developing kindness. But, probably more than 30 years ago, I decided to practice saying, "May I be happy." Now, I got to tell you, 30 years ago, I didn't believe a word of it. It's like, yeah, right, may I be happy. But I kept saying it to myself. I kept setting the intention, may I be happy. And you know what? It works. Just practicing that little bit of kindness towards myself and wishing myself well on a regular basis rewired my brain. There are many practices we can do with this, but that's a very simple one you can try right away. May I be happy. Or any other version of that. May I be peaceful.
May I be safe.
May I be safe. May I be well. Any of those well-wishing on a regular basis will change what happens for us. We're being mindful about the sensations of happiness and ease. So there's lots of research on this one too. When we're kind to ourselves, all these things happen. Increased productivity, increased motivation, increased optimism, curiosity, improved health, decreased pain. All these things there's been research on, and it's been shown that self-kindness and self-compassion make a difference in all this stuff. It's worth doing. We're slowing down and we're paying deep attention. And this is the bottom line. We want to build new skills and we want to wake up to possibilities all around us. We got to slow down and pay attention. And we're doing the mind, heart, and the body. It's not just we're training the mind and the emotions, we're training the body. So let's, again, spend a little time with this awareness of our bodies. Notice, if you will, the feeling of sitting wherever you're sitting. What part of your body is touching whatever you're sitting on? What's the sensation? What's it like? What's it like to feel held and supported right where we are? What do you notice? And you feel into your body and notice the sensations of sitting. This is another way to be mindful. When you start a task wherever you are, you can just stop for a minute and notice, what does it feel like to be right where I am? And we discover that when we bring ourselves into the present moment and we notice like that, we tend to relax. The practice over time tends to bring us a greater sense of ease, just to stop and to notice with kindness, without judgment, just notice, what's it like to be here? So we're integrating everything, our sensory awareness, our bodies, our hearts, and our minds. All of it is present in the moment. This is an important one for me. It takes a lot of energy for me to run my life with a disability. It takes a lot of energy for me to get my socks on. It takes a lot of energy for me to get out of the bed in the morning. mean, I got to pay attention to doing all these things. I don't have a lot of extra energy. I don't want to waste it in running around in my head too much because I don't have any energy to waste. I want to be here in a kind way so that I can be as relaxed as I can be. And as you said, Eleanor, it's not perfect. It's not that I never get wound up, but I know how to come back to here because I practiced. And when I do that, I've got more energy just to run my life.
And what I wouldn't do to get the energy that is spent in my monkey brain back and put it into my physical and cognitive recovery. I wish I could harness that wasted energy, but ruminating about it having been wasted is sending me down a
Right.
spiral.
Right. Absolutely. And you start with the first step. It's not magic. It's not like taking a pill. You're not going to be all of a sudden over and done with ruminating. But you start right here. And you begin to relax and you begin to practice. And when we practice with other people, it's easier to do.
Yes, everything's easier in community.
Exactly. It's easier and we learn more and we teach each other and we help each other. When somebody in the room, even the Zoom room, their energy begins to change, it begins to shift everybody. So one of the things I use is this thing called the mindful pause. And that's just to stop. Wherever I am, I'm in the middle of ruminating and all of a sudden I go, wait, I don't have to do that. Maybe I'm washing my hands and I can just stop and bring my attention to the sensation of the warm water on my fingers. Just break it up. Just stop right here. What does it feel like to eat my lunch? What does it taste like? Anytime I can stop and really get present, I'm going to shift the energy. So the mindful pause is a tool we can use. I want to make sure we have time for some conversation about what we're planning. So I'm going to come to the end of this. I love this quote. Every moment is a new beginning. Every single one, we begin again. Whatever happened in the last 75 plus years of my life is over and done. And this moment is where I begin again. No matter how many years I wasted running around in my head, I'm not there now, I'm here. So always we have the opportunity to begin again. So what Caitlin and I are talking about is this. There's been some expression of a desire for ongoing mindfulness practice for our community. And practice for our community is a little different from other people because we have what we have to work with. And we are basically much more awake and aware already because we're living with our bodies. So traditional mindfulness practice could be a little bit off in its instructions or understanding. Those of us who are teaching, who are disabled, are seeing the need to shift some of the language and some of the practices. So Caitlin and I are talking about creating a twice a month drop-in mindfulness opportunity with conversations about wellness, this whole thing tailored to Sportable members. So the question out there for the three of you and for anybody else who's involved in Sportable is this something that would be useful for you? Would you like this?
Yes,
Yes,
it would be such a great opportunity. But when you say drop in, will there be introductions and, because that's going to break up the content piece, which is not to say I don't envision sharing some niceties with the other people on the Zoom, but how do we cut to the meat of the matter without getting rid of, hey, John, nice to meet you. How are you?
So I do this a lot, and what I find works is if we do a very brief introduction, we say simply your name, where you are, and a word or two about what's on your heart.
Mhm.
So it's very brief. We don't go into longer explanations, but we get everybody in the room. And we find that can be useful. If you got a lot of people, if you got 40 people, obviously you can't do that in an hour. If you've got a few people, then you can do it. So we adjust, but it's helpful often to get people in the room. All of this is flexible. What I then see is useful is a little bit of teaching. So we take a subject and we do a little bit of teaching, and then we do a practice related to that teaching. And then at the end, assuming there's time, there usually is time, we pose a question about the practice. So say we're practicing kindness, and the question might be, what do you do, or what would you do to help yourself be kind to yourself? So we pose a reflection question, and then we may have a little sharing about that. What I think is useful, and if we're going to set this up for you guys, we can listen to what you want and adjust it to reflect what you want. But what I found to be useful is this sense that we're all in this together, and the understanding that all of us, when we really listen to ourselves, have wisdom to share. And that I will learn from you, Eleanor, as well as you're learning from me. And I will learn from Eric, and I will learn from John. We just listened going through this to these thoughtful comments from all three of you, and we're all learning from each other. So we might put people in breakout rooms if there are a lot of people, just to be able to share our wisdom. But again, this is flexible. We want to see what's going to serve the community. I'm going to start through Sheltering Arms. They're going to start doing a little post-discharge education, and I'm going to do a brief session on mindfulness. It would be great to have some place like this to say to people, if this appeals to you, you can come to Sportable, and we're doing this twice a month. So we could bring more people in who really need this, as well as Sportable members.
Nice.
And caregivers as well. So Caitlin, do you want to speak to this?
Sure. So thank you, Allison. First, I want to say for coming. Allison came to me a few months back after we met through the mentor program, the mentor wellness program that Sportable was executing in collaboration with NCPAD, the National Center for Health and Physical Activity for Disability. And it was almost a no-brainer to bring something like this to our community so that there was an option for some ongoing mindfulness practice. And Sportable is very much committed beyond just the providing sport and recreation opportunities, but promoting the whole health wellness for individuals with various disabilities in our community. And this just seemed like a great opportunity to provide another resource to promote overall wellness beyond just the physical. And as Allison said, I mean, mindfulness is very much related to your physical well-being as well. So details about this, like Allison was saying, we're planning to do it through Zoom 2 times a month. Our current plan is to meet every second and fourth Thursday of the month at 12 o'clock in that lunchtime hour, so that individuals who may work possibly can kind of flex their schedule around that lunchtime hour. And I believe we talked about our very first group taking place at the end of February. on the 23rd, I think. Let me
Mhm.
make sure I'm saying that right. Okay, Allison's saying yes. So the very first group would happen on February 23rd, and then we would continue to do it twice a month on every second and fourth Thursday, with Allison really leading up the groups. I would be present as well, and there may even be an opportunity to train some other mindfulness instructors who have lived experience with disabilities, so that we can continue just this community, I guess. So that's anything else you wanted me to add, Allison?
That's great, Caitlin. We definitely will bring in other mindfulness instructors. We'll all learn from each other. And the idea that I have is that I would get this organized, get it going, get somebody trained, and then, because I'm not going to be here forever at 75, that we would make sure we have this ongoing resource available longer term.
Hey, Caitlin.
Yes. Yes, Eric.
Can you pass this on to Lucille?
Yes,
I think that'd be great.
I can. And as Allison was saying, this is something we're going to make sure all of our Sportable athletes and coaches and community know about. But we also, as Sportable seeks to grow to serve individuals throughout the Richmond community who have had life-changing injuries, new disabilities they're born with, things like that. We view this as another just opportunity for them to get involved and take control of their own health and wellness, and just promote more self-efficacy and all of that. Sorry, I'm getting caught up in my words. I'm also getting ahead of myself as I just dream of all this can be. But yes, an ongoing group that's available both to the Sportable community, as well as others throughout our greater Richmond and Virginia community that could find this useful.
Any questions? Any comments?
Just a huge thank you for being creative and coming up with new opportunities for Sportable members. Thanks for all the thinking and the advanced work that you guys have already put into this.
You're welcome, Eleanor. I would love to see you there.
I could really benefit from it.
It would be a gift for me to spend more time in your company.
Oh, likewise.
Any other comments or questions?
Well, I thank you so much, Allison, and Caitlin, and Eleanor, and Eric as well. I think it's a good thing I can do with my time, is learn and learn how to train my puppy, per se, and I'm a dog lover, so this is a no-brainer for me. It's 2 Tuesdays, twice a month. That sounds great. Thank you.
Yes, I'm very excited. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, John. Thursday is the second and the fourth Thursday every month at noon. I'm really glad that this may be a benefit for you.
Yes, it's already helped.
Great.
Good. And I'll follow up. It likely will not be today or this week, but in the next couple weeks, with all the sign up information and everything that you all need, as well as anybody who's viewing the webinar recording or others in our community that might want to be a part of this. So how to get signed up so that you're getting the links for the ongoing mindfulness program. And as Allison mentioned, it'll be dropping, and the idea is we want you there when you can be there, but it won't be as our traditional Sportable programs where we ask you to be there and RSVP in and out. It will be more, you have the link, we'll send the reminder, and we hope everyone who wants to attend can attend that day. And but beyond that, we want you to use this in a way that's helpful to you and not feel any sort of guilt for not being there consistently. We want you to come when you can. So
Thank you, Caitlin. Being mindful of what works for you. in this particular moment.
All right. Anything else from the group before we wrap up today?
I'm going to have to bounce. I'm so sorry. Thank you.
All good. Thanks, Eleanor, for being here.
Yep.
Thank
Bye
you.
all.
Nice meeting.
Everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.
All right. John, hang on. Oh, there he goes. Okay. Thank you, Allison. That was wonderful. And I feel like that webinar and everything, it helped me more than I realized I needed it today. So
I'm glad it was
I appreciate
helpful.
it. I appreciate it.
Enjoy
I've been very stuck in ruminating in my thoughts as I get ready to go to Lakeshore and try to get all the things done of recruiting for mentor and all of that. So it was just a really good pause for me to kind of reset my whole feelings of the past day or so.
Good. I'm glad it was useful. It will be a
Yes.
joy to do this. This is my local community. You know, and I know Eleanor, and she's an amazing human. And, you know, I'll get to know the others as well, but anything we can do to benefit her is a good thing to do.
Yes. I'm so grateful that she was here and that she's interested in being a part of this, because I know she was interested possibly in mentor, and with the life she leads, she was like, I just can't commit to how many classes mentor is and being a part of that program. So I think this is just a great way to connect with her. And it's wonderful to hear that she already, similar to your story in a way, had a meditation and mindfulness practice before her injury and is trying to use it to really help her recovery as well.
Yeah, and I have been in conversation with her about this for quite a while. So this is really useful for her. And what they'll discover if they keep coming is they really do enable each other's practice. There is a great strength in community. So if we can build some community around this, we can really support people. And I would just love to have this available to direct other people into.
Right.
It would be great.
And I think I'm going to debrief with our executive director. I've told him about what we're doing, but he gets so caught up in the really high level stuff that sometimes he forgets or is not as up to date. So I think he'll be thrilled, as you were saying, of that SAI connection of there's a lot of individuals coming out of SAI who you're now starting to meet with about what comes next in discharge planning, and that Sportable can be an answer for what comes next, which is part of our own strategic vision for what we can be for our community, as we've talked about.
I think it's great because people will be intimidated by the thought that they have to play these serious sports, and particularly at first. But if there are gentler ways that they can get involved, it may help.
Agreed. Well, thank you again for your time today, Allison. I'll work on getting the recording out to those who couldn't be with us. But I am, as always, continue to be so thrilled at this partnership and everything that it's showing already it's going to be for our community.
I'm very grateful for your presence in my life and your willingness to do this. And I hope you have a great trip to Alabama.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. All right. Have a good day, Allison.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.